that question. वाइवा तो होने वाला है यार, ऐसा कैसे छोड़ेगा?
Now it's your turn.
Hey, y'all are going to get back at me now, I think. Oh, wow.
Hi, I'm Dr. Rashmi Pashine, and it is an absolute pleasure to have Dr. Udatta Kher on this episode of Not Lockdown, who's not just a renowned implantologist, a brilliant educator, an author, a mountaineer. He's into trekking, rock climbing, and then he moves to the other end of the spectrum, making these beautiful artistic figurines to the detail. Hi, Udatta.
Hi.
It's an absolute pleasure.
My pleasure, Rashmi. I'm really, really glad to be here on your show. Thank you so much for having me over.
Thank you. So that I think a couple of years back, you embarked on this beautiful journey. We watched it. We saw your pictures on Facebook, and I want to know about that because since then, it has fueled that desire in me to know more about it and maybe to travel and take that path sometime. I even practice the pronunciation. To do Mont Blanc.
Yeah, it took me longer to get the pronunciation right than to actually complete the whole tour. I think one of its trips that we have made in our lives, able to trek in the Alps itself is like a dream come true. And then to go through some of the most stunning vistas that one can dream of, over about 8 days of trekking was something out of the world. And the icing on the cake, of course, is to be able to do it with your family.
I believe 3 countries, and you said 160 kilometers in 8 days.
Yes, that's right. So, so this is what it's about. This is Tour du Mont Blanc. This is, a very iconic trek in Europe. This is in the Alps. Mont Blanc, as you may know, is one of the highest mountains in Europe. And the peak of this mountain actually is surrounded by 3 countries. So you have France on one side, you have Switzerland on one side, and Italy on the other side. And this trip entails taking a complete circle around this Mont Blanc peak. So which traverses through all these 3 countries. Actually need to book this trip perhaps a couple of years in advance. And the group size for this is restricted to 13. You start off in Chamonix, which is in France, which is, a very famous ski resort. We trek all around, you enter Switzerland, and then from there into Italy, and then you have a day's rest in Italy, and then you continue it and enter back into France. So just a few stats about it. It typically takes about 8 days. It is around 160 to 170 kilometers. Every day there is an ascent of about 3,000, about 1,000 meters. That's around 3,000 odd feet. So in the end, you're really, covering as much as around 9,000 meters of total climb. Mind you, of course, this is not just climb one way because, almost every day you're climbing up and then you're descending down into the valley. You're spending the night over there and then climbing up again. And then to give you a perspective, when you look at 9,000 meters, the height of Everest is 8,448 meters. Overall, it's quite strenuous. It's beautiful, and the trails I must say are relatively gentle compared to what we are used to in the Himalayas. It's just that they are extremely long. So you're really looking at, maybe starting the day quite early at around 7:30 or 8 in the morning, and finishing, maybe reaching the next campsite at about 6 or 7 in the evening again. So it entails almost around 12 hours of continuous walk. The beauty of the place and just the landscapes and, going from, literally going from one country to another and, on foot, crossing over and, going from France into Switzerland and then from Switzerland into Italy. It's something, it's a unique experience. And again, another highlight of this was the food during the trail. So that's again always a concern, right? What are we going to eat? So how this goes is essentially what we do is, because, when you're going through this, you're going through some very remote parts of the country. Every morning, wherever we have spent the night, in the morning, we would go out to the local market and pick up the fresh produce.
Compared to what we have when we go in our treks here.
Yeah, completely different. And of course, it was very, like I said, the icing on the cake was that we could all three complete the whole trek with touch wood, no mishaps or no problems whatsoever.
So, from the macro mountains, the totality of the mountains, then the micro figurines that you make with your clay modeling, and then dentistry in between, which has been obviously your main passion. There's so much to talk to you about. But I am going to be talking today to the adventurous of that, the mountain, the rock climber. So, where did this all begin?
Well, actually, since you mentioned three passions of mine, dentistry, climbing and clay modeling, I think of the three, being in the mountains is my number one passion, undoubtedly. I love it more than anything else. This started off way back in school time. And for that, I actually need to thank my parents for this, because way back in 1983, I was in the 7th grade. My parents actually sent me on this really long trek to Manali. How it happened was there was this adventure group which had come to my school, and they were recruiting some kids to actually take them on this really long trek to Manali, to the Mountaineering Institute. And in the school, just four of us got selected. We were given this option of going on this trek to Manali, which was for 22 days. And way back in 7th standard, I think, when there was, no mobile phones. In fact, forget about mobile phones, no landline phones also easily available back then. So for back then, for my parents to send me on a trip like that, which I think was quite commendable, to have the courage to send me on a trip like that. And literally from the time they put me on the train, which took me to Ambala, and then from there to Manali, till the time I got back after 22 days, there was absolutely no communication. That really changed things, because that bug really bit me. To be in the mountains and to enjoy enjoy climbing was something that it was a completely life-changing experience from me. And ever since, I think I have not looked back. Whenever I get an opportunity, I love to go to the mountains. The little medal that I got in 1983 when I went to the Mountaineering Institute there in Manali, and this is really one of my prized possessions. The thing about being in Mumbai is, the Sahyadris are not too far off. A couple of hours drive and you are there in the mountains, and you can undertake these little short hikes and treks. And I've always been into climbing, and I love climbing. So even if I see a tree, I love to just climb up the tree. And there was a time when I initiated Satvik very early, as you see, even whether it was tree climbing or climbing into mountains. This is again in the Sahyadris, some activities that you could undertake. So Sahyadris offer a lot of such opportunities, and we actually got Satvik really early into this. So I think he took to it quite well, and thanks to that, then we ventured to the Himalayas, and gave him the whole experience of the outdoors, and spending the nights in the tent, and under slightly more hardships, walking around 7 to 8 hours a day, eating all kinds of food that is available.
So I was just saying that as we were speaking, there's so much for even us to learn. The Himalayas, not just the Himalayas, the mountains. The mountains kind of teach you so much. And one thing that the stories that I've heard from my friends is also something that you learn is accepting failures.
Yeah.
Have you had that kind of an experience where you put in all your heart and mind, and you tread the trail, and then at some point of time ऐसा भी हुआ कि नहीं यार ये खत्म नहीं होने वाला, we have to turn back? Yeah,
absolutely, Rashmi. In fact, I think as a rule, whoever is venturing into the mountains, one has to be prepared to face bad weather and disappointment. It's not like a usual conducted trip that we are used to, going to a beach resort or, to some new city, and, go there and, things happen by clockwork, and then you come back feeling really happy about it. Here you have to be, ready for some disappointment, because at times you just don't know. The weather can play spoilsport, or sometimes local conditions, sometimes a freak accident. You have to be ready for any of this eventuality. And this is also something which is nice, because then there are so many new surprises in that. To reach the starting point of a trek in the Himalayas, one really needs to travel at least 2 days by road. And then, of course, the Himalayan treks would entail a lot of walking again. Mind you, again, it's not as comfortable as the images that I showed you in the Alps, because the trails are, not that well laid. You obviously need a local guide who knows his way around. So these are just some of the images on this Bagini glacier trek in Uttarakhand. This is, one of the last villages that you will encounter, or rather the highest village in Uttarakhand. I think this is called Dronagiri, which is around 12,000 feet. And we reached this village. Until then, we never had good weather. This is again just a view of typically a kitchen tent. This is how these wonderful people in the mountains will take all the possible effort of carrying everything, on ponies and cooking fresh meals for on a rest day when you may have some really good weather and you can enjoy some meals outdoor. But rest of the times you're pretty much huddled up inside the tent like this, and food is being served, and obviously conversations go on and on. But yeah, coming back to the Bagini trail, this is how the weather was, and almost every day for the first, I think, 4 or 5 days that we trekked till we went beyond Dronagiri, we never had good weather, and it looked pretty gloomy. The group leaders told us that it doesn't make sense to go any further. Because you're not going to get any views. In fact, the weather will probably turn for the worse, and we should turn back from here. And that was so disappointing. So as a group, we decided that nothing doing. We'll spend another day over here at this campsite and then hope that the weather improves. So we went into the tents at night, and next morning when we woke up to this view. Something that we just couldn't see from the campsite. It was just so mind-boggling. Then from there we reached the summit where we had to beyond the glacier, and again some really breathtaking views. We had this beautiful view of this Rishi Lake and the majestic Dronagiri mountain in the background.
So, in all this, one of your most fulfilling treks. You reach there and you were like, I'm in heaven.
That's it, yeah. So this was a trek that we undertook about almost 15 years ago in Sikkim. This was trek to Goichala. Okay, so Goichala is beyond the Kanchenjunga base camp. So Kanchenjunga, as you would know, is the highest mountain in India. And the base camp to go to Kanchenjunga, one has to access through Sikkim. So we go to this place called Yoksom, and this is Zongri. This is the base camp for Kanchenjunga. So yeah, this is the view from Zongri, the view of Kanchenjunga, which is the third highest mountain in the world. This was the last campsite, and this picture I taken at night. It was a moonlit night, and we had to reach Goichala, which is I think around 16,500 feet from our campsite, which was around 14,500 feet. Now the beauty of this trek was this last climb that we had to do from 14.5 to 16.5. We had to do it at night, so it had to happen when it was pitch dark like this. Trekking at 2 and reached Goichala at about 5:30 a.m. in the morning. As soon as the sun rose, the first rays of sun on Kanchenjunga, and that is something which I'm telling you now, money can't buy this. Money can't buy this experience. You have.
All the places you've trekked so far, which is your favorite, you said?
Undoubtedly, the Tour de Mont Blanc was the most special. The Indian Himalayas, it's been the trek that we went to Goichala, which is in Sikkim, which is where you get to see the Kanchenjunga really close.
In the next few years, what are your main goals as far as trekking is concerned? Next 2-3 years, what do you want to do?
Yeah, so we actually trekked in most of the Indian Himalayas at least once. So we haven't trekked in the Nepal Himalayas. So
on the trekking front, Bhakti and I still have to make a beginning, but we'll get there.
Make it soon, guys. Somehow this thing about climbing has always been there. I just love to climb. So even when I'm going on these treks, if I see a rock, I see a tree, I like to just go and climb on it, and for nothing else, just to get a good photograph. Me and Satvik both really had a good time with this experience. So it was a lot of bouldering, rock climbing, a lot of theory also. In fact, at the end of it, they also had an exam.
Okay, hi Arun.
Hi, Rashmi. How are you?
I'm very well. I mean, who thinks of doing 8,848? I did my research. I mean, I know the height, but who does that? Suddenly decides to climb.
Mad people, some few mad people in the world.
But you
Arey
have
yaar,
to be. You
what
have to
to
be
do?
mad.
Lockdown, you see, you're making those clay figurines and all, and we have nothing, no hand skills.
Leh for the both of you. What inspires both of you to go to Leh so much? 4 times you've been there, Arun. Tell us something about that first trip when the both of you were in Leh.
This was my first trek. Okay, so I'd never trekked before in the Himalayas, and Hilya and Udatta had planned the entire logistics. They had selected the group with whom we are going, and the route of the trek and everything. So I was a complete novice when it comes to trekking when I went for this trek. So obviously I was the excited one, and jumping around at every chance of, and of course at that point I was heavily into photography. And we landed in Leh. I remember we were walking in the streets, and I jumped around so much clicking, because Leh, the first time when we go, Udat will agree, it just stuns you.
Yeah, it stuns you.
I've heard that, yeah.
Completely.
It's I mean, you fall in love with that place. So basically, when you land into that rare atmosphere, the less oxygen and stuff. So if you jump around too much, you'll end up with a headache. Okay.
Right.
And they say that the AMS headache, once it catches you, it doesn't leave you. So that way. So you have to be careful. But I wasn't. So clearly, by the time I reached the hotel, even climbing flight of 10 stairs, I was like I climbed the mountain by itself. So that, obviously, I mean, I knew that, he's heavily into photography, and he had a nice camera that time, and even I had just got mine. So we were all learning the ropes and, the tricks and the stuff, panning. We were panning everything.
Yeah, I remember that.
Can you believe it? We were panning sheep. Like, sheep pan kar rahe the hum log. Used to take all these weird angles of, like we used to see what he is doing and just try to mimic that. And then again on this outdoor shoot of him clicking.
So nice.
So Meenakshi is a great model, yeah.
Such a nice picture.
Yeah. And then I remember Udat had amazing energy. I mean, I would always be, whenever you're trying to climb a mountain, or always a competitive streak or something, it always comes up whenever you're climbing a mountain or whenever you're getting something. At least for me.
It's the same with me, Arun. I also feel that way when I'm climbing.
Okay, this is quiz for you. That where is this in Leh?
This is the memorial for the soldiers.
Arre wah.
You asking Udatta.
What a good student, yeah. Oh
I
my
know.
God. Okay, what is this monastery? Second question.
This is the Leh Palace, isn't it? Or Leh Monastery.
Arre wah.
Listen, that was Arun's first ever Himalayan trek, and from what I understood, is that Ailya had actually dragged him for this trek, and his only motivation was not really to trek, but was to play around with his new love, that was the camera. And frankly, Arun, I must admit to you, when I saw you during that trek, I felt this will be your last trek. And look, Arun, where you reached after that. It's just amazing. Your journey from 2009 to today is just phenomenal.
So what turned this reluctant trekker, if I may call you that, to now going back? So I mean, you've taken this whole thing to another next level, as he's saying. So,
You also trek, I believe, Rashmi. So you've been there, so you know it. So mountains they say they keep calling you back, nothing like that. Said that that competitive spirit. It somehow after 2009, then we started trekking with a company called India Hikes. So
yeah, I've done few treks.
oh, nice.
Yeah.
2012, when we did Great Lakes of Kashmir with them. Beautiful trek, beautiful.
Yeah.
And we did that trek, and then after that, it was no looking back.
I'm going to let in a little secret here, and Arun's been my partner in crime, sort of. There's a guest, okay, a very special guest.
Okay.
Do you know who the guest is? You're smiling like you know.
No clue.
No, he knows. Look at his reaction.
No.
No, his face is always like.
No.
Okay, okay, then it's okay. Thank you, Arun. Thank you so much. I love the backdrop this time.
Good, no?
Yeah.
it's lovely.
Is this one of your pictures?
Yes.
Okay, Arun, thank you for playing that little thing.
Thanks, yeah.
Thank you.
Lovely
See
time.
you.
Thanks
See you
so
very
much.
soon.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Bye bye.
Yeah.
Bye bye.
Yeah.
Since you can't guess, I'm going to admit him.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this guest.
Yes, I hope you does give you a surprise.
Oh wow, that really is amazing.
I was just like, how do I?
How nice of you, Rashmi. Hi, Howie. What a
Hi.
surprise! What a pleasant surprise.
How are you? Nice to be here with you.
Hi, Dr. Gluckman.
So sweet of you to accept this, Howie, and such a pleasure to have you.
It's a pleasure to be here, my friend. I wouldn't. When I was asked, it wasn't even a question. It was just like a what time.
Very nice to have you here, Dr. Gluckman. Once again, thank
you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
You know, how could I not talk about your pet journey? And the one person that I thought would be absolutely the person to talk about is Dr. Gluckman, because you guys have had such an interesting journey together.
Yes.
So, trailblazers, as I call you guys. And I am a proud owner of Udatta's book. I remember that post where you presented your first 2 books to Dr. Salama and Dr.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah.
That was earlier
That's
this
why-
year. It seems like such a long time ago. It was just before the lockdown, believe it or not.
Yes. So let's hear a little bit about how you guys kind of collaborated on this pet journey. And, you know, Dr. Gluckman says that you've been a great support in the whole research of pet. So let's hear a little bit about that from the both of you.
I think if I can start, I think I just have to clarify one thing. I don't think Udatta has been a support. I think Udatta has been a trailblazer in his own right.
Right.
And as much as our group was going, it was just a merging of the 2 groups really, because Udatta, correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, you started on your own a long time ago and was doing a lot of things. And I think from our group, we were just watching Udatta's group producing the most amazing stuff, and for us it was just like a natural thing to ask him and say, please would you join us, because you know what I mean, you're doing such amazing stuff. And you know I think that's what the wonderful thing about Facebook is, it gives you the opportunity to really showcase and highlight and see what's going on. And Udatta was just showing amazing work, and
absolutely
the team was great. So it was I think it was just a natural emergence for us.
Super.
Yeah, thanks so much. And for somebody like me, it was a dream come true. You know, honestly, when you work, you don't really, at least for me, it's not like that. I'm not really working towards any specific goal, but you know, I'm just working because I was enjoying doing what I was doing. And then one fine day for Howie and Morris to consider me worthy enough to be a part of their research group was, you know, I think the highlight of my career. I must say that. So
Brilliant,
thanks, Howie, again for that.
It's so amazing how people from different parts of the world come together to produce something. It's so amazing.
And I think the social media is
Energies.
hugely responsible for these kind of collaborations.
Oh yes, and to recognize each other, you know, each other's work. I figured that there's a new kit that you've designed, and you also posted something, a case with this new kit with Megagen, I suppose. So how did this come about? Designing the second kit, I believe?
In the first kit that we made many years ago was just a basic collection of a few burrs, a few drills that we got from Comet. So it wasn't really designing a kit, just then choosing a few drills that worked for me, which a lot of people have done as well. I mean, there are many kits out there, you know, that work well, which are just a collection of drills.
Okay.
But when Megagen came, they wanted to know if there was, Megagen has got 2 kits. They've got a root membrane kit, and they've got the partial extraction therapy kit. And they came to me and they said they wanted me to be involved in the root membrane kit. And I said, well, it doesn't work for me because our techniques are different, and it wasn't exactly the same way. And their technique works absolutely brilliantly, but there were certain details that were different. And I said, I'd rather not. I said, if you would be happy, I'd love to do my own one, because we had our own ideas, etc. And we had our own research, which was just in a slightly different direction to what Mitzias was doing from the Greek group. So we, you know, and obviously we had developed the technique, our research group with Udatta and all the other people involved. We had developed our own technique, and that technique was different, required different tooling and things like that. So from there, it was just a matter of refining the technique, refining the tooling that made the technique better, which I believe we've done. And I just want to say thank you in person, Udatta.
I think that was really the missing link in the whole, you know, in the whole range of PET procedures, is to have a really nice, sophisticated instrumentation, which will make it easy for you know, all users.
Okay. How's work been, dentistry and life in general after this pandemic?
It's tough. It's not easy. There's no doubt about it. There's so many aspects to it. You know, there's financial, there's fear of COVID, there's you know, so you know, all those aspects. There's our own need to sterilize. So you know, the number of patients, everything's kind of halved. So
absolutely,
I think COVID is going to hit us economically far harder than, I mean, unless you've lost a loved one, in which case it could not hit you harder. So, you know, bearing that in mind. But, you know, other than that, I think the financial impact and the economic impact on all of us and countries, and especially countries like the BRICS countries like ours, you know, South Africa, India, Brazil, all the developing countries, it's going to, and I think it hasn't hit yet. I think we still have the post, and I think it's going to hit us even harder in the new year.
Yeah.
So yeah, not easy, but you know, life goes on, and I think we just have to be thankful, because dentistry is still a job that we are able to do and we are able to work at. And in this country, you know, restaurants are decimated, all those kind of jobs. The tourist industry is decimated.
Completely.
I mean, and I'm sure the same in India. You know what I mean? And so many people, millions of people losing their jobs. So I think, you know, we can never ever be not you know, gracious about the fact that we are earning a living, because so many are not.
Absolutely, very well said. Yes, I mean, for the lack of a better expression, the way it has affected everyone equally, I would say, all over,
across the world.
Across. Nothing before this has ever, in our lifetimes at least. Okay, so one more question. Beyond your dentistry, there's something similar to the both of you. You both have this immense talent with another medium, woodworking for you and clay modeling for you. So what I want to ask is, to the both of you, does dovetailing come easy to you because of dentistry, Dr. Gluckman, or the other way around? And Dr. Udatta, does clay modeling come easy to you because of composite molding, or the other way around?
I don't know what came first, the chicken or the egg. It's a difficult question to ask. There's no doubt that you know, dentistry is it's called the millimeter profession. You know what I mean? Although these days it's probably the micrometer profession. You know what I mean? It's really it's a very exacting science, and woodwork is very exacting. As you can see with the kind of detail that Udatta puts into his clay modeling. You know, all of it is fine detail, so it helps. There's no doubt that an eye for detail helps. There's no doubt that an eye for perfection helps, which I know both Udatta and I share. And there's also the crossover where I use a lot of woodworking skills in dentistry. You know, a lot of dados and grooves and joinery techniques that we use in woodwork. I've used a number of them. And I've just got a new technique where we kerf the bone, where we actually bend bone using a woodworking technique called kerfing.
Yes,
which I do in my woodworking. So we're now starting to bend bone, and
wow, yeah,
fascinating.
But that's so interesting. I mean, when I came to know about his woodworking skills, and that got me thinking that here's someone who's designing things while working with wood, and similarly that's how he gets to design his entire kit. This is how I think you learn from one craft
Yes,
and
there
putting
is
them
a crossover
together.
for sure. There is a
Yes.
crossover.
Sure.
It's true. I mean, if you look at the kit that we designed, the little lip that you have on the last two drills is actually a routing technique that we use in woodwork. It's like a copy routing technique that allows you to guide. It's called a guide pin, and you use that guide to go along one edge, and then it cuts the other edge to the same as the other edge. So it's a woodworking style of technique that's used.
Very interesting. Yeah, I think it's the same thing with you, that when you
Pretty much, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, like you say, I don't know what came first, whether the clay modeling came first or dentistry came first, but the two are like,
No,
interlinked.
I think you kind of move, like I said, from one craft to the other.
Absolutely. I've always been fascinated using composite resins in dentistry. Though I come from a surgical background, you know that very well, Rashmi. I'm actually more passionate about restorative work. So for me to use composites and do prosthetic work comes very naturally. And I feel somewhere when I'm doing this clay modeling, I actually bring in a lot of the dentistry skills, which over the years I have kind of mastered with resins. I'm able to bring it while doing this clay modeling, and that really has now keeping me going during this difficult lockdown period. This alternate passion
You've been producing some.
That I've developed.
You've been producing a lot of fans through your clay modeling. Dr. Narayan shared with me this article that Dr. Gluckman's just written.
The latest one is a 10-year technique modification. So the modification really comes from development of socket shield and things like that. And what's just been published is I developed, I think, a very reproducible step-by-step technique. And obviously it's things that it's come from the whole group, where we've discussed techniques, we've discussed this works, that doesn't work, and kind of what I tried to do with this publication was put together a step-by-step technique whereby everybody could take the technique and it would make it reproducible in everybody else's hands. Because a lot of times what happens with techniques is that the people who have the skill or do woodworking or do modeling and things like that, who have the dexterity, they are able to do most techniques. But we want to have the person who's got the worst technique be able to succeed at the technique just as much, because just because or bad technique doesn't mean you're going to do it. Simply it's about making sure that our patients are treated in the best possible way, and that the result that both Udatta and I are able to achieve is achievable by the worst common denominator. Do you know what I'm saying? The person who's not as good or whatever, and for whatever reason, and it's not a thing, we just want to make it accessible to everybody. So the purpose of this was to really make it step by step by step by step in such a way that anybody could do it. That's the key. You know what I mean? Because if people read it and if they're able to follow it and then do it in that technique and get the same success that I'm getting, then we've done it. Because no technique is worth its weight if it's not reproducible. And I think that's the key. Because there are too many out there where it's like, you read it, you try it, you fail. And then the question is, well, is it really a valid technique? And my answer is no. So that is what we're trying to achieve. And that's what the publication was about. It's been very, very well received, wherever it's gone. And we've got a lot of great feedback from it. So thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you so much for bringing such wonderful work to us.
My best to you, Howie, as always. Thanks for all the love and affection over.
Thank you so much. And Udatta, thanks to you, my friend. It's just it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure and an honor to have you guys on board. And the book you wrote is just spectacular. And I think that needs to be covered, because that book is out of the top drawer, and the first time that the book's ever been done, it was a privilege to write the foreword for the book, and it is such a beautifully put together book. So thank you for having me, and I wish you all a wonderful Sunday and an even better Monday.
To you too.
Thanks so much, Howie.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Cheers, guys.
Bye-bye. Cheers.
Wow. And this, like I said, was really a special show for me to speak about mountains, because otherwise where do you get to speak of anything like this other than dentistry? So this was special, and thanks so much for it. That was something. Well done.